And good day, creators. How you guys doing today? So we're on our next step. What wonderful happiness we are. I have been so happy with this, to tell you guys the truth. All three of them have held up better than I had expected. Totally. So if you guys have watched the last video, this is what we have done. Each one, it was exactly the same amount of clay per one. I just did something totally different to it a little bit. Each one is also right here. This is 3.4 ounces each. Once again, each clay is the same from the same batch. And for this video, it's going to be how to add clay to already dried items. So yeah, let's see what we come up with. I will be kneading this and getting it all ready, and you know, just making my biscuits, because you know, cats make biscuits, but I'm doing it with clay. I'm not sure how these are going to turn out. At first I was just going to like throw it to the wolves and be like, you know, hey, that's what you get. But I kind of think I want to respect my first creations a little bit and make them a little cute and bring you guys along. So we'll see how this works, and we'll try some new tricks out. I learned something, I'm able to share it with you guys, and I can't wait. But yeah, so far, if you just joined me right now, these are going to be flower vases, and they're made out of paper clay, which I do have videos on how all of them were created down in the videos. I'm not sure if they're going to be down in the links or not, but I will try. So this one here is the insulation clay. This one here is the toilet paper. And this one is the newspaper. The newspaper is very, very dry. I will definitely need to be adding water to that one. The newspaper, the TP paper, still is pretty pliable and wet. The insulation is still perfect to just put my hands in and go along. The insulation, I just used a really simple design. I do have pictures, I believe I'll post some in the video for you, of this here. And this one is like super light, so that if you're looking for a very lightweight thin, this one's great. I mean, that's just awesome. This one here is the TP. I didn't do anything really, you know, fantastic with this one. I just kind of left a little hole there, kind of give it a little doorway, I was kind of thinking. So that one's that. Once again, super, super lightweight, super sturdy. It's awesome. This one here is the newspaper. As you can tell, it is the darkest. It does have the ink from the newspaper, so hey. This one here, I just pressed the little rings from top one of these into it, and so that's what we created here. And that one is the heaviest. This one is the heaviest out of all three, but I mean, it's still super light and super, super sturdy. So those are our three that we're going to start with. I'm actually going to start from this way and work our way that way. So yay, it's going to be so much fun. Like I said, I don't know what these are going to actually turn out to look like, but we'll see. And I'll see you guys back in the next clip when we get started with our beauty. Alright? So we are now on our insulation clay. Now I just kept these in a little cinnamon bun where you get the icing, and I love these. So this is great. This clay is actually still so pliable that I can actually just start mixing it in this. It is just awesome. I can also just squeeze it. That's why I like having them in the plastics. And pop it. Going with that. This one I'm not going to add any water to. Like I said, it is very, very pliable. This is way over a month old, and it is still good. It's still working for me. It has been frozen as well. It froze, I'm telling you. Not the other ones, but this one. I had it too close to the refrigeration in my mini fridge. So yeah. And what I'm just doing is just switching hands back and forth, kind of like I'm playing fetch, and I'm just curling my hands under. That way you can also find all these little hard spots before you start. because we don't need those. Unless you want to keep them. I mean, they always can add character. But until you know where your, that clay is going to end up, I always just like to take them out. Okay. So this one's really cute. I like the designs in it. Kind of reminds me of almost like a beach-ish area. I don't know. This is just a plain glass on a table, which did not roll out properly. Yeah, see, that's not rolling. It's still too wet. Handy dandy rolling. I want to get a smaller one because this is where I hold most of the time. Just like with the corn on the cobs. What's up with that? Yeah. Moving on. Yeah, maybe I need to go back to my other tables. I could have also watered this a little bit, the rolling pin down, just enough, like if you're glazing it for butter. But at this point in time, this is really not sticking, so I might need to change to a different, yeah. Be right back. Just adding a little bit more water to it. Like I said, this is very pliable, but it's just, if a little too much water is, that's alright, because it'll just take a little bit longer to dry. But I'm just wanting a little bit more pliable clay. Now all I've done so far is take away the glass. I'm going to have to find something else, because, yeah, that's just not going to work. That was sliding all over the place. I am just using my everyday card table, computer table. If I was using anything with pigments in it, like paints, dyes, anything like that, I would not be using my table because it will dye it. So see, and we have all of those juices working up, so I'm just going to, what I'm doing is just going into a ball like you're playing catch with each other, and just closing my hands, making sure there's no bubbles, no creases, things like that. Okay, and I'm just using these little handy dandy toys that I'm just going to repurpose because they are super cute. I love the designs on them. I'll show them to you guys in a second. I believe it's from Monster High. I don't know. It's a big collection that I found at the thrift store, so I was super happy and I grabbed them. These were actually already broken, so I decided, hey, why not, right? I love the textures. I love the shapes. So I see it popping up quite a few places in our thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and make sure the table that we're using is going to be clean enough so when we roll this up it does not stick too very much. You can also just very lightly water down your sections. Do remember any water that you add will affect the clay. It will affect how it dries, the thickness of the clay, how it breaks down, everything like that. So just to keep everything even if you can. Yeah, that's much more pliable with that extra water. Okay, so I'm just going to use my handy dandy roller. Just nothing super about it. Just wish it was smaller, because as you can see, I'm pretty short, and I need small areas to work. And we're just going to smush this down and roll it evenly. And what we're trying to do right now is create waves. As you can see, it did stick for a second there, like right here. So just go ahead and roll that off. You can kind of roll it back onto the clay. So that just means we just need to put either flour if you're using baking. With this one, we're just going to go ahead and do a light coat of water around this. Even that water out. There we go. Now we shouldn't have too much of a problem with, see, this is what I mean, it's like it takes up the whole table. Hi Jordan. Hey Babs, you wanna come? Okay, so I will try to keep the Jordan segment at the end for you guys. And now this is pretty much dried out a little bit. So and evenly roll towards yourself and away. And right now what we're trying to do is create waves and making this more of an even layers. I do see a lot of cracking already into this clay. So I'm just kind of feeling it to see if I believe it is evenly. And it feels pretty even. I mean, I'm not doing anything super, so this size of the clay is actually pretty good. It is a lot thinner though. We'll try to do about one more round. Get a little bit more thinner. So I'm going to start in the middle. Once again, evenly pressing down, not, you know, swaying or anything like that. If you do feel like a little bit of swaying going on, that just means you either have an air pocket or the clay is just a little bit thicker on that spot. And voila! Now what I'm doing is just pinching the sides. The sides always seem like, hi baby, they get a little thinner than the rest. And you can feel that pretty evenly. So I'm just pushing that in and down, trying to get all that puckering to go away. Now if you do see a big crack or anything like that, it's really simple to fix. Just dab your finger or paintbrush or one of these guys into the water, or even right onto the clay, but that one's a little bit more tricky. Take it and then just slowly, oop, that had no water on it, wow. That took up it pretty well, so that means it's drying out. And just pat down, usually you can do it like in circles depending on how wet it is. Okay, and I don't see any holes or anything like that. I'm actually planning on trying to make a light box for this so that I'll be able to see the thickness if I need to cover up any of the holes. So this is just my handy dandy paint scraper. I've had this for years. I believe my grandmother had it for years, and yeah, I love it. So I'm just going to wet that down. And I'm just going to push down and then slightly pull up at the same time. But first I'm just going to go along the edges, because you want this to come up as one piece as much as possible. So slowly, just all I'm doing is this with my fingers and lifting up. And we have one big slice. Isn't that awesome? So I'm just going to go ahead and turn that over because I want to see what the bottom looks like to make sure there's no cracks. There's nothing that's going to be like super like, voila, I'm here, that you're going to have to like use 15, you know, layers of paint to cover up, or cracks. But it looks wonderful. I do see a little spot there, but you know, I'm not really worried because it's great. Sweet. So next we're going to do this. I'm not sure what we're going to do yet. Yeah, get all that extra stuff that's been left on there. I am going to wet down the area I'm going to work with. I'm just going to go ahead and work with that little spot that we had the indentation for. Wet that down. And that's all I'm doing, is just going towards it. Don't soak it too much, because do remember, everything that the water hits will start to dissolve that area. And all we're trying to do is just get it enough workable to add on our excess clay. So I'm going to let that kind of soak in. Since the water will drop, it's going to actually soak in around it as well. So yeah, so while that is sort of drying, I'm going to go ahead and take this little handy dandy shape. I do love how the indentations look, so we'll go ahead and see if this will work. So, like always, you want to water down the item that you'll be working with. Take any excess off. There we go. Find a good spot. And just even that out. And now I'm just outlining the edges so I know where to pull up. Simple as that. Now I'm just going to take this, and since we've already made the outline, I just wanted to see if I could still pull it up before I started doing this. Slowly and evenly press down onto your item if you want to keep that design on there. So we're kind of using this as like a stamp. But do remember, the more you're pressing down, it will stick to the table. So, just in case we moved it a little bit, I'm just going to go ahead and outline my section again so that we know where we're going to start pulling. Now just pull this slowly up towards you or away from you, depending on what the clay prefers. And we have a big old piece we can use later. We have this spot here. Now what I'm going to do is just get the edges wet again so that we kind of have a little bit to work with. And before I pull this up, all I'm going to do is all that excess dirty edges, I'm just going to push in together. And because it is wet, it should be a more even coat. And then you can just take off all the excess that's on the sides. Okay, so the sides are cleaned up. Just go ahead and water our spatula back down, and I'm just going to press down and then lift up slowly. But once again, I'm going to go ahead and just under the edges so that it kind of gets a little bit of moisture going on. And pressing down and slowly lifting up. That just popped right up. Pop it over. It's still pretty dirty on the edges. Like right here is really, really wet. I'm just taking my finger and cleaning up the edges just a little bit. A lot of these are thicker than other spots, but we can clean that up. Okay, now here is the test. We're going to try to remove the clay from the piece. So all I'm doing is going to take my finger and once again slowly roll it over to try to keep all of that texture that we have just put onto there. So, and see that texture there? We have that one from the blue that transferred onto our clay. Not too much, but do remember it's not that deep. And not too shabby. I'm not really worried about the texture differences since this one here kind of gives you more of a beach feel, kind of more relaxed and flowy. So that's going to be cool. I am going to do it into that section there. I'm not sure what I want to do. I was thinking maybe some type of a lip, you know, like an overhang, and then do maybe like some type of a door. So yeah, so we have this diamond shape. And why don't we go ahead and just plop it onto the back. Just smack dab in the middle. And we'll pretend like this is maybe a door or some, who knows. So going ahead and just slightly pressing down. Oop. Forgot a big step. Go ahead and take your water and lightly coat the area that you're working with. Since this one has a lot of texture to it, I'm not going to have to make any lines or scratches or anything like that, so that's great. I will show you how to do that with the other two. Okay, so now the area is wet. Even out the water so that, you know, we don't have any pockets. Okay, it's not a perfect, but I do like the texture. It looks like little eggs or something. So pop that up. Go ahead into our back spot. With that, we've watered down and see which way we want to have it facing. And look at the difference in the colors. This is the dry clay and this is our wet clay. This is exactly the same clay that we've used through this whole process. So that is another way that you can tell when your project is dry. So without breaking this, I'm just going to hold it with one hand and slowly with my thumb curve it in so that it starts to form with the piece underneath it. So just go ahead and, because I feel a big bubble, yeah. And all I'm doing is just, like I said, just using it as a rolling pin to kind of even. You can also take, since, you know, honestly, I'm not going to worry about the texture too much because this is, you know, a learning process, so it's not going to be perfect. So I'm just going to do what I did the first time when I made this, take my palm in my hand, and don't squeeze because you don't want to crack your bottle. Do remember, this is a thin layer of anything. So now that feels even. I don't feel any bumps, any bubbles. Okay, we did lose the outline, but yeah, that's okay. We'll get there. We'll get there. You can always just take your handy dandy tools and do whatever you wish. And I wish to try and get that spot back. So I'm just kind of pushing it up. And at this spot, this is where you do your designs, where you can do your anything that you wish it to look like. Okay. And now since I just made a total crease there, I'm just going to go ahead and push that into each other, get a little bit of the liquid onto my hand so it kind of works in with each other, and just go around in circles, and that crack is gone. No more crack. Okay, and now since I pushed that up, just make sure all your edges are together. Okay, so we do have a little back window, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Alright, we have so much clay to work with. So what's next? So we have a little-ish spot there. We have a spot that I want to work with there. And let's see, since we already know we're going to have to flatten this out a little bit, so I'm just pressing down and making it even. And if you feel any time that it is sticking to this, just slowly kind of roll up, and that should stop it from the stickiness. Sweet. And you can get it up, flop it over, no cracks, no bruises, no fouls. So let's see what's next. You can try this one. This is kind of cool. So let's go ahead and do the inside of this one. Press down. Because this one actually had a lip underneath it. So we can press down evenly, just like always, because you want to keep this as even as possible. Just wetting the tools. Now just taking off the excess. And giving us an outline on where we're going. Okay. And like I said, all I'm doing is pressing down and pushing away. Nothing big, nothing special. I will move this out of the way. I will be trying to get the camera angles a lot better for us, for all of us, so that you can see what I'm doing a lot easier. As you can see, this is the indentation that we have right there. We can just easily, you know, break these off just like that, or be smart about it and do it on your table so that you don't actually rip the spots that you want to keep. Sweet. Now all I'm going to do is use the water that's already around and clean up those edges. Some of them are really dirty, so I'll be scraping the sides. Some of them are still clean and will have a little bit of more of a thinner edge. So on those sections, I'm going to be pushing into it instead of out. And if you see me pinching just like this, all I'm doing is trying to fix an edge that either curled over on itself or has some type of creases that we can fix in a sec. Yeah, see, like the edges on these are just so sad. So sad. But you know what? I think I'm just going to cut off the tips. We're going to cut off the tips. Have something unique. Yeah, I don't know what this turned into, guys. It did not turn into what I was thinking. But it never does, and that's fine. Flip the baby over, clean up the bottom. Now it looks like a weird door. It's not what I was going for. See, this is how I can never copy anybody, because I try to do something, I can't even copy my own self. And so what I'm doing now is just using the clay and making my own design. Keeping it clean and easy as I can. Sweet. And that is what we have ended up with. So we have this section here. It is pulling up as it's drying. So what I'm going to do is just get it a little bit wet along the edges, which I probably should have did in the first place before stopping. Oop, that was a little too much water. And all I'm doing now is just rubbing in these sides and using the clay that's rolling off as the glue per se. Okay, now if you see any type of imperfections that you want to fix, go ahead and do that now with the water, because you can just roll them out. Kind of was just wanting to keep that style. There we go. Somewhat of the shape. Okay. Now we're going to get my door, my handy dandy door, and we're going to use the side that has the lip here. And we're going to pop them right below the mark on the bottom line. So about right there. So get that area nice and toasty. Wet, not toasty. Okay, now we're just going to once again roll him into each other. Still a lot thicker than I want. So that's what you're going to have to work with, is the thickness on what you're wanting to go. On most things I would go thicker. It does take a lot longer to dry, but since this piece is already so thin, having those really thick pieces just does not seem like it would be going with each other. As you can see, I didn't do anything different, just kind of flattened out more. And right back to the same spot. Go ahead and just going to press some water into my clay and flip that over. And even that out a little bit. Like I said, I'm not scraping, I'm not pushing, I'm just cupping. Just cupping. Which is kind of cool because I can cup with both my hands for both of these sections. And just slowly moving it out. Clean it up as you possibly can, of course. You do want something cool. See, and that just takes off all the cracks, just a little bit of water and a little bit of TLC with the fingers. Pinch it onto the side so that it sticks to your container. You can also get it wet and work it in that way. Sweet. So we have a next shape. Don't feel any bubbles, so I'm happy about that. So we have our little guy here. We have our little guy there. And we still have a whole bunch of clay left. So let's figure out what we're going to do next. Sorry, I'm just like worried. I've never done this before, so I'm like, do I have to keep pushing? You know, let's go ahead and I really want something around the bottom and the top of this. I really do. I have a picture in my head of it. That's why I was thinking the lip would have been perfect, but I don't think I haven't started with enough clay for that. So I'm just going to go ahead and clean up a little bit and see you next time. So we're just going to go ahead and grab a rolling pin, our handy dandy water applicator. Okay, now let's see how thin we can get this. And yes, I know it is rolling onto itself, that's perfectly fine. I'm actually rolling pretty hard down onto it. Where usually I do it more slowly and evenly, right now I'm just pushing. And what I'm going to try to do is see if I can have it wrap all the way around, getting out all of those air pockets, all of those waves. And yeah, there we go. We lost a little, but that's fine. Now slowly roll it off. As you can see, yeah, it's sticking. Darn. Just take your time with it, honestly. It's no rush. I'm rushing because, well, I'm trying to do video and, well, you can only watch a video for so long. Yeah, see, those edges just got stuck on there. That would have been easily saved if both of them were properly liquefied, or item was clean, or you did it correctly and was slow about it. But it's always nice to have a little bit extra on the sides. Cleaning up everything to the side because it is not so fun. I do feel a bubble in the middle, so pinch those edges together. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay. This is where if you had like a pasta machine, it would be great because then you just like, you know, make me a square. Make me a square. Now I'm just taking our water applicator, making sure it doesn't have a lot of water, so I'm bringing that out with my hands, which are also washing my hands, which is awesome. I had a little bit too much off. And now just slightly, yeah, you can see where it's like, just taking the edge, making sure that we can pull that off easily. Flip over like a pancake. Alright. Now I am going to try to find a ruler and I'll be right back. So real fast, I didn't find rulers, but like I said, I just want to kind of get this going because, you know, I've been here a while and got nothing done. So once again, I'm just going to wet this. This is just an everyday popsicle stick. And I'm just going to use that as my cutter, pushing down evenly. And yeah, so what I'm actually going to do, or not, is always finding what works best. I'm still learning myself. But that didn't work. But this is a size I don't mind having for the edges there that I really want to clean up. It's not pretty. Not there yet. We're not pretty yet. We're still in the makings. So we have one strip, which kind of looks more like a centipede, but we'll clean her up in a sec. Don't worry. I'm just making sure everything is just wet down. Give us a little bit of more applicability and workability. Try not to move your stencil or whatever you're using too much. Yeah. See? Just simple. Still not pretty, but you know, I'm not going for pretty tonight. I'm going to learn. That's what we're here for. Or to make fun. But hey, it's okay. I make fun all the time. Now I'm just folding it over and let it break by itself. Just needed a little bit more indentation since the water is drying. And the clay is drying as well. While we're working with it, the clay is drying. So, do remember, the slower you go, like I'm going pretty darn slow. But that's just because, well, I don't know what I'm doing yet. So. But I think 4 should be wrapped around the bottle pretty easily. I will be also testing this clay out with like miniatures and all of that, you know, actual armor and everything, not just little, you know, something that should be simple that's just not working for me. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and wet the edges so it has something to work with. Same thing with the bottoms of each of my clay pieces. And find where we want to start laying it. As you can, all I did here was just go along where it curved, like right here, how it curves like this. That's all I did was just lay it on there, and just, as always, lightly pressing it down so it sticks, and then we'll work with it in a bit. I don't want to see if I want to keep it, so I don't want it permanently on there yet. Let's get the longest one. Okay, once again, we have the area is wet, so that's great because I'm going to go along the second side. So go ahead and get your piece of clay wet. This one's already starting to crack, so we'll just pinch that together and rub it in. And if it sticks to the table, never worry about using tools. That's what they're here for. Okay, right there. So we want to work into this spot. And I'm just pinching it into each other and then down. And that actually wrapped all the way around with a little bit of extra lippage. So, woo-hoo to me. So far that is what we have. Nothing special, nothing great, nothing woohoo yet. But you know, this is only our first makings. You never know what we can make. And that's the great thing. Right now I'm just working with those two combined edges and working those together, so now it's one cohesive piece. So if it comes off, it's coming off all as one spot. And I'm just working those edges in, kind of cleaning them up so you don't see any edges, and it's just a smooth transition. To remember, any clay, wet clay that you put on top of the dry clay will absorb any liquids that are there. So it will dry differently. I'm just picking up the water that has fallen onto the table and using that to fill in some of these cracks. I will work with the top layers in a sec. I'm just working with the clay on clay at this point. Just pushing up, making sure there's no bubbles, because I really don't want any bubbles. I love bubbles, but not in my clay. Okay, now I'm just pushing up, kind of even out the clay a little bit, or pushing down, depending on, you know, what the clay. You'll start to notice that the clay wants to be created. It wants to, you know, be something. And sometimes you just have to work with the clay. You know, you go into it and you think you're going to make one thing, and it comes out totally different. And that's what I love about creating things, especially when you go into it thinking you have a plan. And as you can see, I'm just taking my finger and I'm just touching it. I'm not pushing down on it. I'm not really doing anything to damage it. And now just cleaning up the edges by pressing down and pressing in. I am going to get my fingers a little bit wet to kind of help those edges look cleaner. Now the first layer, this layer here that is already dry, took 31 hours from the time that I created it, from the time it was completely dry. So if you create something in the first place and you wait for it to dry, honestly, just wait a few more days if you plan on painting it, because you don't want anything to grow underneath the paint on accident. And then you can totally just skip this part and paint it. But definitely wait until it's completely dry, because the paint, the clay will absorb every single piece of liquid that you give it. Like the spot that I'm just working in right now, that had a lot of water and it barely had any clay to it. So that's going to be a very shallow spot. So what I'm doing is just pushing in the back to making it a little smaller, and then I'm just going to roll it out, pushing the wave towards that spot, but keeping everything a little bit evenly as possible. And you'll be able to feel that with your hands. Yeah, see, that's going to crack on me no matter what I try, so let's go ahead and... I like using my thumbnail as well to kind of give it a little texture and a little grippiness to it, a little bite, you know, so that it forms with each other. Even though we're trying to avoid cracking, I'm making cracks. It is really weird to think about if you want to go into it. So okay, I'm just pressing down so it's a little bit even, a little bit pretty, because I still kind of want to keep the curviness of what this gave us in the first place. So that is what we have so far. We have a little door, we have maybe a little window, we'll see. We have 2 more stripes left, so that's great. So I think that's going to go on the bottom. Yes, that's going to be cool. So we'll start that next. And we do have a handful of clay to add. I don't know. Now what I'm doing is just taking the edges again. I can see this kind of pulling up, and I'm just pressing very lightly down onto the edges to make sure when it dries it's not curving up, and it's actually going to be curving down. At least that's what I'm hoping. That is what Cats is hoping. Plus it's also just helping kind of give all of those juices to even out as well. Making sure there's no cracks, no lines, because whatever you see is what you will see when it dries. So if you see a crack now, that crack will be there once it dries. If you see a line, if you see anything, that is how it will dry. Sweet. Not beautiful, but sweet. Very, very sweet. There we go. So there we go. We have one section done. Now I'm just going to go ahead and wet our applicator and just go along our bottom, since that is where I will be placing our next strips. And look at all that water coming off, but that's okay. This water is easy to clean up, and swipe. That one's a little cracky, so we'll just clean that up a little bit. Do shake off any water that you do not need. Oh, see, that just broke off by itself, so it's going to go into the collective. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do the dirty section as the bottom, and the spot that actually was on the bottom on the table as the top, since it's prettier. Even though I will be adding texture, hopefully, to this before the end. Now I'm just pressing down to make sure it actually stays onto the spots, but not really doing any other motions other than the press and curve. Okay, so that's spot one. Back to the door. Flip. Ooh, and that worked too. Yay, yes. Okay. Make sure that's evenly onto both sides. And I'm trying to pinch and hold the bottle into the sections that don't have anything on them. Now, if you notice, this has that little lip there now, from where it meets up. You can either keep that in there and have a little bit more of a bulkiness, or you can take that spot off and work the bubbles out to cover that spot. Okay, now I'm just pressing down into the clay, kind of keep that even. Clean up the edges. This is really nice to clean up the edges if you're just wanting a nice clean shape. Using my fingers, kind of roll that out so it looks like one piece. Just maybe a little bit more bulkier on the sides. On the edges, I'm just pushing up because I kind of want to keep a straight-ish line. But these have been fun to create so far. I kind of wish I went into it more with a plan on how I was going to do it instead of just jumping into it. Even though I've been doing my research for years, and it's like, yeah, Cats, you've been doing your research for years, but you don't know what you want to make. It's because I want to make everything. That's it. It's because I wanted to create everything. So I can't pick one thing. So I end up doing everything. Alright. So this is what we have so far. We have the top lip all the way around. We do see some cracks, but I will deal with that at the end. The bottom looks really nice. As you can see, the differences in the colors already with the two wet clays. So sweet. Yeah, I can still see this kind of coming up. So I'm just going to dab it with, take out some of your water, guys. That was way too much. And just smoothing the sides down again. Now I'm just taking the edge of the thing and just pressing down, kind of giving a little bit of liquid. I actually wrung it out just now. And just kind of trying to clean up the edges. The cracks we can deal with, but you know, those little frays I kind of want to keep into a little bit. Okay, so the edges are very nicely dampened. I'm just taking my finger along and just picking up all of those loose fibers that are hanging around and filling in any of maybe the gaps with them. That's what's wonderful about this, is if you have any type of gaps, you can just, you know, get it a little bit wet and just roll your finger into it with a little bit more clay. Grab a little bit more clay if you have to, you know. I mean, it's so cool. I really hope you guys have been enjoying these. If you have, please let me know. I know I have a following, and I appreciate you guys so much. And I'm just so happy that you guys have taken to the Mix channel. Sweet. I like it. I like it a lot. I don't like that though. That's pretty ugly. If you can see that. That is pretty ugly on the side there. So that's what I'm going to try to clean up with my fingers. So far, I haven't used mini tools. The ones I have tried really haven't worked out because they just haven't. And that's just because I haven't learned yet how to use them, you know. Tools should be used in certain ways, and then they can be used in certain ways. But if you don't know how to correctly use something yet, you're never going to get a perfect product the first time around. It always takes practice. And I know that. And I just have to remember that the people that I'm watching and I admire and I strive to be like and inspire me have been doing this for years and years and years, where myself, I've only been doing research and reading and stuff like that for years and years. So they've had the practice that I am doing now, which I'm sharing with you guys, so now that you can see how something is done, and then now you know how to create something, and who knows what you guys can create out of exactly the same thing. I mean, it is so awesome. You can do exactly everything I just did and come up with something totally different, and that's what I love. I really do. I love that so much. Perfect. Okay, I'm seeing this popping up on the sides here, so let's go ahead and just wet him down and just pop him a little bit down further. And so for the next step of this little beauty is either, I'm not sure if I'm going to gesso it first or if I'm just going to go straight to the paint. So yeah, that feels great. Good. So it's either going to be one of those two. Okay. So that is what I just did, and it's a little bit better. Not too bad. We do have a lot more clay to play with. So we have a huge spot here that we can do something with, and we have all of those. I have to use it. That is the rule. The rule is we have to use every single piece because it has to be equal. See, this is actually supposed to be a vase. So, you know what? I think I'm going to keep this clay until the end. And I'll weigh it. I will weigh it. and let you guys know how much I'm going to be taking out of each spot. And I'll leave these for the tops, you know, the round spots, because I will be cutting this open and getting rid of this to get a bigger opening here. So maybe doing a little lip there, something pretty and, you know, would really look nice. So yeah, I just think I started with way too much clay I started way too much clay. I basically started with what I started with the first set. Now, since this is pretty much done, I'm just going to go ahead and take the first roller that we used for this. See, this is really watery. I'm going to wait to do that section until it dries a little bit. So yeah, and there's a lot of water on my table, but I'm just going to go ahead and get our guy wet. Okay. I, for some reason, kept thinking that it had water in it. And now I'm just going to slightly roll some texture into it. And it doesn't matter if it's even, it doesn't matter if it's pretty. I mean, it does if you want it to. But I'm just trying to get the design aspect of it on there. Oh, in the middle. Middle's the hardest spot, so there we go. See? Learn something. Perfect. All the way around. Let's just go up this one. There. And the door will go up. Okay, nice. Just tap the sides down because I did have a little bit pulled up. So yeah, sweet. I don't see any cracking. The texture's not really what, you know, too thick, but that's fine. I'm not going for a thick texture. Now this is pretty dry, so I'm not sure how this is going to take the texture. The doorway went up, the sides, we went sideways. So let's go this way. And I am pressing pretty hard because it is dry. Do be careful when you're doing that. I just totally took out that edge. See, yeah, you have to be on a good spot. Oh. Can you guys see that texture? Tell me if that is just gorgeous. I hope you can. Oh, okay. Now I'm just rolling down to try to get those edges a little bit texture. Now at the bottom is what I am going to, because this is a lot of liquid and it's actually taking the texture very well, but I'm losing the crispness of the bottom. Yeah, nice, nice. You'll see in a second. I'll try to have pictures for you guys, I promise. I'll try. What I'm doing right now is just patting down any stragglers that might be there. Going along the edges, kind of getting all those little frays. Because without going too crazy, I think this one, minus the excess clay, sorry, but honestly, I just don't want to ruin her yet. So we are pretty much done with this one. This is our installation clay. And we have the wonderful edging. We have some, maybe a window, maybe a door. We've got something going on here. It's going to be really nice. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And I will see you guys back in the next clip with our next clay. Hey, Jordan. Hey, Babs. You want to come? This is Jordan. Hi, baby. Okay, so what we're going to try to do is do an even roll. Jordan, hi. I can't have you up here right now. Thank you. And the biting. I'll try to keep this for the end. Honey, you gotta stop now, okay? Okay, so I will try to keep the Jordan segment at the end for you guys.